Businessman sees his son protecting the cleaning lady, then decides to do something incredible. Michael Anderson was yelling so hard that the veins in his neck bulged as he pointed to a small stain on the imported office carpet. His construction company in New York City was known for its extreme demands, and he made sure to maintain that reputation down to the smallest details. It was in that moment of fury that he saw something he never expected. His son Ethan, only 8 years old, ran into the middle of the argument and spread his arms, placing himself as a human shield between his father and Dorothy, the cleaning lady who had worked at the company for 2 years. "Dad, stop yelling at Miss Dorothy!" shouted the boy, his eyes shining with tears but holding his ground. Michael was paralyzed. Ethan had always been a shy child who barely spoke when he was around. Seeing that unexpected courage left him speechless for a few seconds. Dorothy, a 40-year-old black woman, trembled visibly and lowered her head even further. She gripped the cleaning bucket tightly, trying to make herself invisible, as she always did when the boss got angry. "Ethan, get out of there right now," Michael ordered, but his voice came out less firm than he intended. "I'm not leaving. She didn't do anything wrong," the boy replied, and then he did something that surprised his father even more. He turned to Dorothy and hugged her. "Everything will be okay, Aunt Dorothy." The woman knelt down and returned the hug, whispering an almost inaudible, "Thank you, my angel." Her tears streamed silently, wetting her already worn uniform. Michael watched the scene with a mix of anger and bewilderment. He had never seen his son show such maturity and protectiveness towards someone. The strange feeling in his chest was something he couldn't name. "Dorothy, finish up and leave early today," he finally said, his voice more controlled. "And you, Ethan, come with me." The boy hesitated, looking at the cleaning lady with concern. "You can go, sweetie. Thank you for defending me," Dorothy murmured, forcing a reassuring smile. In the private office, Michael closed the door and turned to his son, trying to find the right words to scold him. But Ethan surprised him once again. "Dad, why do you always yell at her? She works really hard and never complains about anything." "Son, you don't understand how a company works. I need to demand perfection from everyone." "But you don't yell at Mr. Robert when he spills coffee on the table. Why do you only yell at Ms. Dorothy?" The boy's observation hit Michael like a punch to the gut. It was true. Robert was his business partner, and he really did tolerate small mistakes when they came from people of the same social standing. That night at home, Michael found Ethan drawing at the kitchen table. Curious, he approached and saw a colorful drawing showing a smiling woman wearing the same cleaning uniform as Dorothy. "Why are you drawing Dorothy?" he asked, sitting next to his son. "Because I've never seen her really smile," Ethan replied, continuing to color. "I only saw her like that in my dream." "What do you mean you've never seen her smile?" Ethan stopped drawing and looked at his father with those blue eyes he inherited from his mother. "Dad, Miss Dorothy cries every day in the bathroom after you yell at her. I've seen it lots of times." Michael felt a tightening in his chest that he couldn't explain. "And how do you know that, Ethan?" "Because I always go comfort her after you leave the company. She gets really sad and I don't like seeing people cry." The revelation left Michael silent. Imagining his 8-year-old son comforting an adult employee he had made cry was disturbing. "Why do you do that, son?" Ethan went back to drawing, seeming to choose his words carefully. "She reminds me of Grandma Mary. Remember when Grandma would get sad and you weren't here to comfort her? I always hugged her until she stopped crying." Michael swallowed hard. His mother had passed away 3 years ago, and he knew he hadn't been the present son he should have been. Work always came first, and now his son was doing for someone else what he couldn't do for his own mother. The next morning, Michael arrived early at the company and noticed something strange. There were signs that someone had slept in the small storage room at the back of the building. An old blanket was folded in the corner, along with a plastic bag containing some clothes. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. When Dorothy arrived for work, Michael was waiting for her in the storage room. "Dorothy, I need to speak with you," he said, watching how she avoided his gaze. "I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson, I know I shouldn't have slept here, but—" "Are you living here?" he interrupted, trying to keep his voice neutral. Dorothy began to tremble, wringing her hands nervously. "It's only temporary, sir. I lost my place last month and haven't been able to rent another one yet. I promise it won't interfere with my work." "Why did you lose your home?" "My mother got sick and I had to use all the rent money to pay the hospital. She didn't make it, but the bills remained." Tears began to stream down Dorothy's face. Michael found himself facing a situation he didn't know how to handle. His first reaction was to offer money to quickly solve the problem. "How much do you need to rent another place? I can advance your salary." Dorothy shook her head. "I don't want charity, Mr. Anderson. I just need some time to save up money. Work is what I don't lack. This isn't charity, it's an advance. With all due respect, sir, I need my dignity. If you lend me money, how will I be able to look my boss in the face knowing I'm a burden?" Dorothy's response surprised him. He expected gratitude, not pride. During the following days, Michael began to watch Dorothy work with different eyes. She always arrived 15 minutes early, did her work without complaining, and still found time to smile at Ethan when he arrived from school. It was on one of these afternoons that Michael discovered something that would change everything. He saw Ethan hiding a snack in his backpack and decided to follow him. The boy went straight to the storage room, where he found Dorothy organizing her few belongings. "Aunt Dorothy, I brought you a sandwich," Ethan said, handing over the snack with a smile. "Oh, my angel, you didn't have to. Won't your mum be angry?" "Mom's not here anymore, remember? But I know she'd be happy to know I'm taking care of you." Michael had to lean against the wall. Ethan was giving his own food to an employee because he knew she was in need, and he did it secretly, without expecting recognition. "Ethan!" he called, appearing at the storage room door. The boy was startled, dropping his backpack on the floor. "Dad, I was just—" "You're giving her your food?" Michael asked, trying to control his tone. "She's hungry, Dad, and we have food at home. Ethan, go to the car now, we'll talk at home." The boy looked at Dorothy with worry before obeying. The cleaner tried to explain. "Mr. Anderson, I never asked the boy for anything. He's the one who insists on—" "Dorothy, finish your work and leave." Michael's cold tone made the woman lower her head again. She knew trouble was coming. In the car, the silence was heavy. Ethan looked out the window, clearly nervous about his father's reaction. "Ethan, you can't keep giving food to the employees," Michael finally said. "Why?" Because it's not your responsibility to take care of her." "But who's going to take care of her then?" Ethan turned to his father, his eyes welling up. "She has no one, Dad. Her family lives far away and she has no friends." "How do you know all this?" "Because I talked to her. She's really nice and tells beautiful stories from when she was a child." Michael realized that his son knew more about Dorothy's life than he did, even though he had been her boss for 2 years. At home, the discussion continued in the living room. Ethan was sitting on the couch, nervously swinging his legs, while Michael paced back and forth. "Son, you need to understand that there are boundaries. Dorothy is an employee, not family. But she's a good person. Why does that matter?" "It matters because—" Michael stopped speaking, realizing he didn't have a convincing answer. "You're just like Grandpa Joseph," Ethan suddenly shouted, surprising his father. Michael froze. His father, Joseph Anderson, had been an extremely harsh man with the employees. Growing up, seeing that coldness had marked Michael's childhood, and he had sworn he would be different. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Grandma Mary always said that Grandpa Joseph was very mean to the people who worked for him. She would get sad and say that you couldn't be like him." His son's words hit Michael like a slap. His mother Mary had always tried to soften her husband's harshness, and now he was repeating the same pattern. Ethan continued, tears streaming down his face. "Grandma said that being rich didn't give you the right to be cruel. Why did you forget that, Dad?" Michael sat down heavily on the couch next to his son. Memories of his childhood came flooding back. He remembered employees being humiliated by his father, his mother begging him to be kinder, promises he had made to himself to be different. "Ethan, I'm sorry. Daddy lost his way." The boy moved closer and hugged his father. "There's still time to change, right, Dad? Grandma always said it's never too late to do the right thing." The next morning, Michael arrived at the company with a strange feeling in his chest. He found Dorothy cleaning the employee bathroom, humming softly a song he couldn't identify. "Dorothy, can I talk to you?" She was startled, dropping the cloth on the floor. "Of course, Mr. Anderson. Did I do something wrong?" "No, you did nothing wrong. Actually, I wanted to talk about your situation." Dorothy looked at him suspiciously, expecting the worst. "I know you've been sleeping here at the company. I want to help you find a place to live." "I already said I don't want charity, sir." "It's not charity, it's what any decent person would do." Dorothy studied Michael's face, looking for signs of a trap or hidden motives. "Are you all right? You seem different today." "My son opened my eyes yesterday. He made me realize I was being unfair to you. Ethan is a special boy. He has a heart bigger than his body." "Yes, he does. And he learned that from my mother, not from me." Dorothy relaxed a bit, seeing sincerity in her boss's words. "Look, Mr. Anderson, I just need some time. I'm already looking for a studio to rent. I can sort everything out in 2 weeks. What if I increase your salary? You could rent something better." "Why? My work hasn't changed." Michael realized that Dorothy was too proud to accept help without justification. "Actually, I'm thinking of expanding your responsibilities. Ethan gets here from school and stays until I finish work. You could help look after him for a few hours." Dorothy's eyes lit up. "I would love to take care of Ethan. He's such a sweet child." Then it settled. "You'll be responsible for him from 3 to 6 in the afternoon every weekday. That justifies a 50% raise." Dorothy couldn't believe what she was hearing. 50%? That's a lot of money, Mr. Anderson. It's the fair price for the service. Ethan isn't an easy child to handle. Truth be told, Ethan was one of the most well-behaved children around, but Michael needed a convincing excuse for the raise. When Ethan came home from school that afternoon, he found Dorothy setting up a table with snacks and drawing materials. "Aunt Dorothy, what's all this?" "Your father hired me to look after you for a few hours each day. Now you're my official responsibility." Ethan ran to hug Dorothy, who welcomed him with a genuine smile. "Does that mean we'll be together every day?" "Every day, my angel. And look, I brought some storybooks for us to read together." Michael watched the scene from his office door, feeling a sense of relief he hadn't experienced in a long time. Seeing Ethan truly happy was worth any financial sacrifice. In the following weeks, the company's dynamic changed completely. Ethan would come home from school eager to see Dorothy, who always had some activity planned. She helped him with homework, told stories from her childhood in rural Louisiana, and taught songs she'd learned from her mother. The other employees noticed the change in Michael's behavior. He stopped yelling over small mistakes and began greeting everyone by name. The heavy atmosphere that had always dominated the workplace gave way to something lighter. "Dad, Aunt Dorothy said she's moving to an apartment at the end of the month," Ethan mentioned during dinner. "That's great, son. Did she find a nice place?" "Yes, it's really close by and has a big window in the living room. She was so happy." Michael smiled, pleased to know his employee would finally have decent housing conditions. "And she'll keep looking after you every afternoon." "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you change? Before you were always angry with everyone." Michael put his fork down and looked at his son. "You taught me that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. Your grandma tried to teach me that when I was little, but I only understood it now." "Grandma would be proud of you, Dad." "I hope so, Ethan, I hope so." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out. Now continuing, a month later Michael received an unexpected call. It was from a private school in New York City, informing him that Ethan had been involved in a fight during recess. "A fight? Ethan?" Michael couldn't believe it. "My son has never fought with anyone. Mr. Henderson, you need to come pick up Ethan today. He hit an older classmate." On the way to the school, Michael tried to imagine what could have made Ethan act so violently. The boy had always been peaceful, resolving conflicts through conversation. In the school office, he found Ethan sitting in a chair with his right eye swollen and his lip cut. Across the room, a larger boy was crying while his mother complained to the principal. "Ethan, what happened?" Michael knelt before his son. Dad, I didn't want to fight, but he was saying horrible things. The principal, a stern woman in her 50s, approached. Mr. Anderson, your son attacked Brandon for no apparent reason. The boy was just talking with his classmates. That's not true. Ethan stood up, his eyes blazing with anger. He was saying that black people are dirty and stupid. Michael felt his blood boil. He said what? Dad, he was imitating Aunt Dorothy, speaking incorrectly and saying that's why she's only good for cleaning bathrooms. The other boy's mother interrupted the conversation. Listen here, that's a lie. My son would never say such a thing. He was raised to respect everyone. It really is a lie, Brandon shouted. I was just joking with my friends. Ethan looked at the boy with contempt. You said Aunt Dorothy talks like a monkey and that black people belong in the kitchen or cleaning bathrooms. Everyone heard. Michael stood up slowly, trying to control the anger growing inside him. Ethan, are you sure about what you're saying? Yes, Dad. And when I told him to stop, he pushed me and said I was defending a dirty maid. The principal tried to mediate the situation. Gentlemen, regardless of what was said, violence solves nothing. Ethan should have looked for a teacher. I did, Ethan protested. Ms. Jennifer was busy with other children and told me to handle it myself. Michael looked at the principal sternly. So a student makes racist comments in front of a teacher, and she tells them to handle it themselves. Mr. Anderson, we can't confirm there were racist comments. It's one child's word against another's. Yes, we can. A small voice came from the door. Everyone turned to see a girl about 8 years old standing at the entrance to the office. Emma, what are you doing here? The principal asked. I heard everything Brandon said, and it wasn't just today. He always says ugly things about black people, especially after he found out Ethan is friends with a cleaning lady. Brandon's mother turned red with anger. Emma, you're lying to defend your little friend. I'm not lying. Ask Olivia, ask William, and ask Madison. Everyone heard. Brandon said Ethan was stupid for being friends with a black maid. Michael felt like shouting, but controlled himself because of the children present. Principal, it seems we have a very clear situation here. My son defended himself against racist bullying. Mr. Anderson, even so, he used violence. Our school has zero tolerance for physical aggression. And what is the school's policy on racism? The principal hesitated before answering. Well, we also don't tolerate discrimination of any kind. Then why is my son being punished for defending himself, while the maker of racist comments isn't being held accountable? Because we don't have enough proof of the alleged comments. The word of 3 children isn't enough proof? The silence in the room was broken by Ethan's small voice. Dad, I don't regret hitting him. Aunt Dorothy is better than many people I know. She has a good heart and works hard to support her family. Michael knelt down again in front of his son and hugged him. You did right, Ethan. Sometimes we need to stand up against injustice, even when it brings consequences. Brandon's mother protested indignantly. You're teaching this boy that violence solves problems. Michael stood up and faced the woman. I'm teaching my son that some things are worth defending even when it's hard. If your son had been raised to respect all people, none of this would have happened. How dare you lecture me about upbringing? My son had never been in trouble before. Because before he never met someone brave enough to confront him, the principal tried to regain control of the situation. Everyone, let's calm down. Brandon, is what the children are saying true? The boy looked at his mother, then at the principal, and finally lowered his head. I was just joking. I didn't mean to offend anyone. Joking? Ethan stood up indignantly. Saying black people are dirty is a joke. Ethan, let me handle this, Michael said softly, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. Brandon began to cry. I heard my dad saying this at home. I thought everyone thought the same way. The boy's mother was mortified by the revelation. Brandon, how could you make up something like that? I'm not making it up, Mom. You and Dad always say that Sarah speaks wrong and that's why she works at our house. The woman's embarrassment was visible. Michael realized the problem was much deeper than he had imagined. Principal, I believe this situation requires a broader conversation about diversity and respect at school. I agree, Mr. Anderson. We will implement an educational program about this. And what about Ethan's punishment? The principal looked at the boy, who kept his head held high despite his injuries. Considering the circumstances, we will only give a verbal warning, but Ethan, next time, seek out an adult before using force. I did, Principal. The teacher didn't help me. That will also be investigated and resolved. In the car on the way home, Michael drove in silence while processing everything that had happened. Dad, are you mad at me? Ethan asked quietly. Mad? No, son. I'm proud. Proud? You defended someone who wasn't present to defend themselves. That shows the character you have. Aunt Dorothy always defends me when you used to argue with me before. It was only fair I do the same for her. Michael felt a tightening in his heart upon hearing this. Ethan, I will never yell at you or Dorothy again. I promise. Do you really promise? I promise. And you know why? Because you taught me that protecting those we love is more important than anything else. When they arrived at the company, Dorothy was waiting in the reception area, visibly worried. Ethan, what happened to your face? She ran to examine the boy's injuries. Aunt Dorothy, I got into a fight at school defending you. Defending me? What do you mean, my angel? Ethan told the whole story, while Dorothy listened with a mix of horror and emotion. My God, Ethan, you didn't have to do that. I'm already used to that kind of thing. But you shouldn't be, Ethan replied firmly. No one should get used to meanness. Dorothy looked at Michael, who was watching the conversation attentively. Mr. Robert, I'm sorry if this situation caused problems for you. Dorothy, the only problem here is that my son had to learn on his own what I should have taught him a long time ago. What do you mean? To stand up for what's right, no matter what others might think. Dorothy smiled, stroking Ethan's hair. Your son is special, Mr. Robert. He has a heart too big for his chest. He gets that from his mother. And now I understand why she always said that I needed to teach him that money and social status mean nothing if you don't have character. That night, Michael called the school principal to find out if the educational program would really be implemented. Mr. Anderson, we are organizing talks about diversity and respect for all classes. We will also train teachers to identify and handle situations involving prejudice. And the teacher who ignored Ethan's request for help? She will be instructed on the correct procedures. This cannot happen again. Thank you, Principal. I hope this situation serves as a lesson for everyone. Absolutely. And Mr. Anderson? Your son showed admirable courage today. Not many children would have the courage to stand up for what they believe in. After hanging up, Michael found Ethan in his room doing his homework. Son, can I talk to you? Ethan looked up from his notebook. Sure, Dad. I wanted to thank you for teaching me something very important today. What did I teach you? That doing the right thing is sometimes difficult and painful, but it's always worth it. Ethan smiled, showing the tooth that had loosened in the fight. Grandma always said that we have to choose between being cowardly or brave every day. Your grandmother was a wise woman, and you inherited that wisdom from her. Dad, can I ask a question? Always. Are you going to keep treating Aunt Dorothy well even when I'm not around? The question took Michael by surprise. Why are you asking that? Because I noticed you only changed after I started defending her. What if one day I'm not here to protect her anymore? Michael sat on the bed next to his son, moved by the maturity of those words. Ethan, I promise I will treat Dorothy and all the employees with respect, whether you're present or not. Not because you're watching me, but because it's the right thing to do. How can I be sure? Because you taught me that the kind of person I am when no one is looking is who I really am, and I want to be someone you're proud to call your father. Ethan hugged Michael tightly. I'm already proud of you, Dad. Especially today, when you defended me at school even though you knew I'd been in a fight. You can always count on me, son. Always. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. The next morning, Michael arrived at the company with a decision made. He called a meeting with all employees, something he had never done before. In the conference room, Dorothy sat in the back, clearly uncomfortable with the formal situation. The other employees murmured among themselves, speculating about the reason for the meeting. "Good morning, everyone," Michael began, standing at the front of the room. "I know it's strange for me to call you all for a meeting like this, but I need to say some important things." Robert, his partner, looked at him curiously. "Michael, is everything all right? Did something happen?" "Actually, Robert, yes. My son taught me a lesson yesterday that completely changed how I see our company." Michael looked at each employee before continuing. "I realized I haven't been fair to you, especially to some of you." His gaze turned to Dorothy. "And that's going to change starting today." Sarah, the secretary, raised her hand timidly. "Mr. Michael, can we know what happened?" "My son got into a fight at school defending Dorothy from racist comments, and when I saw his courage, I realized I never had the courage to defend what's right." A murmur of surprise went through the room. Dorothy lowered her head, emotional. "From today on, this company will have new policies. First, zero tolerance for any kind of discrimination or disrespect among employees." William, the accountant, looked confused. "But boss, there's never been any serious problems here." "That's exactly the problem, William. There's never been serious problems because some people simply accepted being treated with less respect." Michael continued. "Second, all employees will have access to the same benefits regardless of their position: meal vouchers, health insurance, and profit sharing for everyone." Dorothy looked up, disbelieving. "Mr. Michael, does that include—" "It includes you too, Dorothy, and anyone who works at this company, whether they're a cleaner, secretary, or engineer." Robert stood up, concerned. "Michael, can I speak with you in private?" "No, Robert, if you have any objections, you can speak in front of everyone. We won't have conversations behind anyone's back anymore." "Well, it's just that this will increase our costs significantly. Are you sure this is a good decision financially?" Michael looked firmly at his partner. "Robert, do you have children?" "I do, you know that. And what kind of example do you want to set for them, that it's acceptable to treat people differently depending on how much money they make?" Robert lowered his eyes, with no answer. "Besides, well-treated employees work better, stay longer with the company, and refer other good professionals. This isn't an expense, it's an investment." Rachel, the civil engineer, applauded discreetly. "Mr. Michael, I've always admired Dorothy's work. She's one of the most dedicated people I know." "Thank you, Rachel. And that leads me to the third point. We'll create a training program for all employees who want to develop professionally." Dorothy could no longer hold back her tears. I don't even know where to begin, Mr. Michael." "Dorothy, are you interested in learning other roles in the company? I've always wanted to work in the office, but I never thought it would be possible." "Then let's start by enrolling you in a computer and administration course. Gradually, you can take on other responsibilities." Dorothy's crying was now visible to everyone, but they were tears of joy and gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Michael." "No need to thank me, Dorothy. You've deserved these opportunities for a long time. I'm the one who took too long to see it." Robert still seemed hesitant. "What if some employees don't adapt to the changes? Then they're free to look for jobs at companies with values different from ours." The meeting continued for another hour, with Michael detailing the new policies and listening to employees' suggestions. For the first time in the company's history, everyone felt comfortable expressing their opinions. When the meeting ended, Dorothy approached Michael. "Mr. Michael, can I speak with you privately?" "Of course, Dorothy. Let's go to my office." In the office, she sat in the chair that was previously only occupied by important clients. "Mr. Michael, I want you to know that all these changes are happening very fast for me." "Are you scared?" "A little. My whole life I've worked in general services. I don't know if I'll be able to learn office work." Michael smiled understandingly. "Dorothy, you took care of your sick mother, raised 2 children alone, supports a household, and still find time to care for Ethan as if he were family. If you can do all that, you can learn anything. But what if I make a fool of myself? What if other employees start treating me badly because of the change? First, you won't make a fool of yourself. Second, if anyone treats you badly, they'll have to explain themselves to me, and I promise I won't yell." He laughed. "I'll talk civilly and explain our company's rules." Dorothy relaxed a bit, And Ethan? Who will take care of him while I'm studying? We'll organize the schedules. You can take the course in the morning and work in the afternoon, or vice versa. The important thing is that you have time to study and continue caring for Ethan. Mr. Michael, can I ask a personal question? Go ahead. What really made you change? It wasn't just Ethan's fight at school, was it? Michael leaned back in his chair, thinking about how to respond. Dorothy, my father was a very hard man. He treated employees as if they were less important than the furniture in the house. My mother always tried to teach me differently, but I ended up following my father's example. And what changed? Ethan showed me that I was being exactly what I always criticized. He had the courage to do what I never did, stand up against injustice. Dorothy watched him attentively. Do you regret what you did before? I regret it very much. Especially how I treated you. You never deserved that. Mr. Michael, can I say something? Of course. I never held any grudge against you. I was sad many times, cried just as many, but I knew you weren't a bad person. You were just lost. Dorothy's sincerity deeply touched Michael. How can you be so generous after everything? My mother always said that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I prefer to use my energy to build good things. Your mother was a wise woman. Yes, she was. And do you know what she said most often? What? That everyone deserves a second chance, even the people who hurt us. Michael felt his eyes welling up. Thank you for giving me that second chance, Dorothy. We deserve each other, Mr. Anderson, both you and me. And most of all, Ethan deserves to have a father he can be proud of. That afternoon, when Ethan came home from school, he found a scene that moved him. Dorothy was sitting at a desk in the office working on the computer, while Michael patiently explained how to use the program. Dad! Aunt Dorothy! What are you doing? Ethan! Dorothy stood up to hug him. Your father is teaching me how to use the computer. Really? That's so cool. Are you going to work in the office now? Little by little, my dear. I'm going to start by taking a course and learning some new things. Ethan looked at his father with admiration. Dad, was this your idea? It was a company-wide decision, son. Everyone deserves opportunities to grow. Can I help teach Aunt Dorothy? I know how to use the computer. Of course you can, Michael laughed. You two can study together. During the following weeks, the company's routine changed completely. Dorothy divided her time between cleaning in the morning and computer classes in the afternoon. Ethan helped her with some exercises, creating a fun dynamic between the two. The other employees were initially curious, but soon realized the changes were beneficial for everyone. The work environment became lighter, people greeted each other more warmly, and even productivity increased. Dad, have you noticed that everyone is happier at the company? Ethan commented during dinner. I have, son. Do you think this has to do with the changes? I think so. Before, everyone seemed afraid of doing something wrong. Now they talk and smile more. Michael reflected on his son's observation. It was true that the atmosphere of fear he had created didn't benefit anyone, not even himself. Ethan, do you regret fighting that day at school? No, Dad. If I hadn't fought, maybe Brandon would have kept saying horrible things about black people, and you might never have realized you were being unfair to Aunt Dorothy. You're right. Sometimes a bad situation can lead to very good changes. It's like Grandma used to say, sometimes God uses storms to wash the sky. Michael smiled. His mother really did have a saying for every situation in life. 2 months later, Dorothy received her computer course certificate. The ceremony was small, but Michael and Ethan were there in the front row, cheering as if it were the most important graduation in the world. Ms. Dorothy Santos, the instructor called her name. She walked up to the stage, trembling with emotion, received her certificate and waved to Michael and Ethan, who shouted, "Congratulations," from their seats. After the ceremony, they went to a restaurant for dinner to celebrate. Aunt Dorothy, now you can use the computer better than Dad, Ethan teased. Hey, I still know a few things, Michael protested, laughing. Mr. Anderson, I never imagined this was possible. At 40 years old, learning a new profession. Dorothy, you're still young. You have a lot ahead of you. It's true, Ethan said excitedly, and now you can teach other people too. Dorothy looked at the boy with affection. Ethan, you know you changed my life, right? Me? If you hadn't defended me that day, none of this would have happened. I'd still be crying in the bathroom and sleeping in the storage room. But it was Dad who decided to change everything. Your father changed because you taught him what was right. You were brave when I couldn't be. Michael watched the conversation with a smile on his face. Seeing those two people he loved most caring for each other was the greatest reward he could have. You both taught me that family isn't just about blood, said Michael. It's about who cares for each other with love. Dorothy and Ethan smiled, and the three continued dinner while talking about future plans. At the company, changes kept happening. Dorothy was promoted to administrative assistant and proved to be extremely competent. Her dedication and attention to detail impressed all her colleagues. Dorothy, you have a knack for numbers, Rachel, the engineer, commented one day. Have you ever thought about taking an accounting course? Accounting? Isn't that really hard? No harder than computers, and you learned that in no time. What do you think, Mr. Michael? Dorothy asked. I think you should give it a try. The company can pay for the course, and you can start taking on some of William's responsibilities when he retires. William, the accountant, who was nearby, smiled. It would be great to have help, Dorothy, and you've already shown you're a fast learner. Dorothy hesitated. But accounting is serious business. What if I can't handle it? Aunt Dorothy, you can handle anything. Ethan came running in from school. You already learned computers. You can do math in your head better than me, and you still make the best chocolate cake in the world. Everyone laughed at Ethan's simple logic. It's settled then, Michael said. Dorothy, you'll take the accounting course. And Ethan, you'll continue being our official motivation consultant. Consultant? Ethan asked, confused. You always give the best advice when someone's feeling unsure. Months passed, and Dorothy excelled in the accounting course too. Her life experience helped her understand the importance of every penny, and she developed a unique organizational method that even impressed the teachers. Dad, did you see Aunt Dorothy's grades? Ethan showed off the report card she had proudly shared. Yes, son. She's getting better grades than I did in college. That's because she really studies. Yesterday I saw her in the office late doing exercises. Michael grew concerned. She's pushing herself too hard. I'll tell her to slow down. No, Dad. She said she loves studying, that she always wanted to learn these things but never had the opportunity. Even so, I need to make sure she isn't overworking herself. The next day, Michael talked to Dorothy about her study routine. Dorothy, Ethan told me you stay up late studying. I don't want you to harm yourself because of this. Mr. Michael, I love studying. It's like I've discovered a whole new world. But you need to rest, too. I do rest, yes, but when I open the books I get so excited and want to learn everything at once. Michael smiled, seeing the sparkle in her eyes. Just don't forget that learning is a process. There's no need to rush. I know, but you know what motivates me most. Ethan always asks what I learned each day. He gets so proud when I tell him the new things. He really is proud of you. The other day he was telling his school friends about your studies. Really? What did he say? That his Aunt Dorothy is the smartest person he knows and that she's studying to be an accountant. Dorothy got emotional. That boy. He always believes in me more than I believe in myself. Ethan has the gift of seeing people's potential. He saw your potential long before I did. And what about you, Mr. Anderson? Don't you regret having invested in me? Dorothy, investing in you was the best decision I've ever made in my life, not only for the professional results, but for the example it set for Ethan. What example? That everyone deserves opportunities, regardless of where they come from or the job they do. That what matters is a person's character. 1 year after Ethan's first fight at school, the company had completely transformed. Dorothy had graduated in accounting and had taken on several important responsibilities. The work environment was harmonious, and productivity had increased significantly. Dad, do you remember what it was like here before? Ethan asked, watching the employees talking and laughing during their break. Yes, I remember, son. It was very different. Do you like it better now or before? Now, without a doubt. And you? I love coming here now. Before I used to be scared when you yelled. Now I know everyone is happy. Anderson watched his son playing with Dorothy, who was teaching him a card game she learned in her childhood. The genuine joy between the two was contagious. Dorothy, can I ask you a question? Anderson approached. Of course, Mr. Anderson. Are you happy here? Dorothy stopped playing and looked at him with surprise. That's an easy one to answer. I've never been so happy in my life. Even after going through all those difficult moments at the beginning? Mr. Anderson, the difficult moments made me appreciate the good ones even more. If I hadn't gone through that, maybe I wouldn't understand how special all of this is. Ethan, who was listening to the conversation, approached. Aunt Dorothy, do you still cry in the bathroom? I still cry, Ethan, but now they're tears of joy. She hugged him. Tears of gratitude for having such special people in my life. What about me? Ethan asked his father. Do you still get angry with people? I still get angry sometimes, son. But now I stop, take a deep breath, and remember what you taught me. What did I teach you? That being strong isn't about yelling at others. It's about having the courage to protect those in need and the humility to admit when we're wrong. Dorothy looked at Anderson with admiration. Do you know what I admire most about you, Mr. Anderson? What? The courage you had to change. It's not easy to admit we were wrong and to have the humility to learn from a child. Ethan isn't just any child. He has the wisdom it took me 40 years to develop. It's because he has a pure heart, Dorothy said. He hasn't learned to have prejudices or silly fears yet. That night at home, Anderson found an old letter in a drawer he hadn't opened in a long time. It was a letter his mother had written to him when Ethan was born. My dear Anderson, today your son was born, and with him comes a new chance for our family. I hope you'll be for Ethan the father I always dreamed you would have. Teach him that kindness isn't weakness, that respecting others is the foundation of everything, and that being truly rich is having a generous heart. Don't repeat your father's mistakes. Be better. I know you can do it. With all my love, Mom. Anderson felt tears streaming down his face. His mother had died when Ethan was just 5 years old, but her words echoed through time like a guide. Dad? Ethan appeared in the bedroom doorway. Are you okay? Yes, son. I was just reading a letter from Grandma. Can I see it? Anderson handed the letter to Ethan, who read it slowly, moving his lips. Dad, Grandma was right. You managed to be better. I only managed it because you showed me the way, Ethan. It wasn't just me. It was Aunt Dorothy, too. And it was Grandma who wrote this letter. And it was everyone together. Michael Anderson hugged his son, moved by the profound simplicity of those words. You're right, son. Good changes happen when people help each other. Dad, can I keep Grandma Mary's letter? Of course. When you grow up and have your own children, you can show it to them. I'll show them and tell them our whole story. How you changed, how Aunt Dorothy studied and became an accountant, and how everyone became happier. It really is a beautiful story. It's the best story in the world, Dad, because it's our story. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story. Have you ever been through a similar situation? Have you ever had to defend someone or make a change in your life? Leave a comment sharing your experience. If you like the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one. Your participation is very important to us.